Hey, it's Lemon. Welcome to the Backlogs. Hope you're doing well. Today's Dark Souls 1 weapon showcase is a weapon class that a lot of people have been clamoring for, the Blade on a Stick, formerly known as the Halberd. The speedrunner's weapon of choice, this weapon class is a monster. It has reach, damage, and relatively low stat requirements for most of the weapons it harbors. But while everyone already knows the best weapon in this class, mainly because it's touted as the best weapon in the game, there's quite a few other halberds worth covering. So today, let's talk about how to beat the game with only halberds. But first, I need to give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, Apex Gaming PCs. In need of a new computer, but RAM prices are giving you heart palpitations? Maybe you should consider buying a pre-built computer instead. Apex offers multiple tiers of computers to meet your needs. And after working alongside Apex to design some custom PCs that fit multiple budgets and spec requirements, we've got a little something for everyone with the Hollow, the Massive Souls, and the Gaping Dragon. Now, being the skeptical void entity that I am, I demanded that Apex send me a souped-up Gaping Dragon PC build to test out their services before I took this sponsorship. God's teeth, computers are heavy these days. And after ripping into the packaging, I very quickly realized that I haven't built a computer in over a year, and had no idea what I was looking at. What is this? It doesn't sound important. But after marveling at the fact that the PC made it safe and sound to my door, despite my delivery man having an active vendetta against me, I simply installed the graphics card, plugged in 2 wires, and... But now that I've proven it's not broken, let's try to break it. Every single Dark Souls game at once should be enough. Huh, well alright then. That's Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Remastered, and Elden Ring all playing at the same time. And we're still cruising like it's nothing. Time for the big guns. Let's open every single Backlogs video at once. Well, it's handling them being open, but what happens when 200 lemons all start challenge running at once? Truly, this is the sound of heaven! And there's the limit. 50 videos up and running, with an additional 160-ish tabs all loaded and primed. Though I'm gonna be honest, if you're watching 50 videos at the same time, I don't think a new PC is what you need right now. But if you do need a PC, head on over to Apex today and see if they have one that fits your needs. And don't forget to use my code BACKLOGS for a 3% discount. Oh hey, here's a video I forgot to play. Wonder what this one is. Now then, there's no class that starts with a halberd, so the run itself will have to start after the tutorial, unless you decide to do the Asylum Demon skip. But once you reach Firelink Shrine, we actually have access to almost every single halberd in the game. And the first two are right here in the catacombs. The first is easily found if you take the normal route through the area and take a slight right, the Lucerne, while the other halberd requires you to take a leap of faith off of the first rotating bridge. Well, 3 leaps of faith actually. Just take your time, make your way slowly down those 3 falls, and you'll be rewarded with one of the best halberds in the game, the Great Scythe. So, let's start with the Lucerne. More of a sharp hammer on a stick than anything, this weapon only does thrust damage, which means if you like it, you should definitely consider grabbing the Leo Ring, as every single one of its attacks will benefit from the extra damage. It does a lot of damage at 110 base attack and great durability, but pretty awful stat scaling and a decently heavy weight that you'll need to work around. And you better get used to all that, because those 4 qualities I just mentioned will be present in pretty much every single halberd we find today. As the description states, this weapon aims to club its targets on the head rather than poke like a spear, which can immediately be seen through its moveset. The one-hand light attack is a series of downward slams, while its one-hand strong attack is an unwieldy swipe that can technically be comboed, but only if you hit your target. The two-hand light attack is another downward slam, as to be expected, while the two-hand strong attack is a spin move that hits twice. The kick is just a classic, nothing to see there, while the running attack is a forward momentum version of the light attacks. The backstep attack is the exact same as the sprinting attack, as per usual, while the rolling attack is a horizontal swipe that covers roughly 180 degrees in front of you. And lastly, the jump attack. Basically just the rolling attack, but in the air. As for the left-hand moveset, there's nothing really to see here. Just an ineffective block and a slightly less ineffective light attack. Now, something that you might have noticed during that moveset showcase was that it looked like I was constantly off balance. And that's because I was. The halberd is another weapon class that has the stumble mechanic. Hit an enemy, and you'll be able to attack repeatedly like normal, and even combo attacks together. But miss your target, and you'll stumble, taking an extra few moments before you can swing your weapon again, and likely putting you in a tough spot with the enemies around you. Thankfully, this mechanic was removed from Dark Souls as a whole after Dark Souls 1, and we got much better mechanics, like adaptability. Wait. Anyway, stumbling and fumbling mechanics aside, let's talk about the second halberd we picked up, the Great Scythe. It has slightly less damage and durability, but way better scaling. And if that wasn't enough, it also has bleed. remember how I said this was one of the better halberds in the game? Now you know why. As far as its moveset goes, it's not all that different from the Lucerne. Its attacks are downward strikes and horizontal swings, though the strong attack feels a bit faster, with the two-handed versions bringing you more of the same. That said, it's worth noting that the two-handed strong attack has a very large hitbox that hits somewhere around 200 degrees around you. Absolutely massive. The running and backstep attacks are a diagonal slice that comes out very quickly, while the rolling attack is a downward arc, and the jumping attack is a wide horizontal slice, once again covering a little bit more surface area than you'd think. For comparison, here's the Lucerne's jumping attack. See how the blade stops at about your character? Not so with the Great Scythe. It's not much, but it's definitely more. Now, here's the thing. In my personal opinion, the Great Scythe is, a scythe. And because I've had the pleasure of doing a scythe-only run of the entire Dark Souls series, I'm not going to be using the scythes much today. They're amazing weapons, don't get me wrong, but I have a sneaking feeling that they were classified as halberds for simplicity's sake. A suspicion that's backed up by the fact that later entries to the series gave scythes their own weapon class, Reapers. Obviously, if you're following along, please feel free to use the two Reapers we'll be covering today. They're good fun, and dare I say, a bit overpowered in the right hands. But then again, halberds in general are incredibly strong, so if you decide to forego them, you'll still be fine. Anyway, moving right along, let's talk about stat distribution. Personally, I recommend getting just enough strength and dexterity for whichever halberd you're interested in using, then putting the rest of your points into health and stamina. This weapon class doesn't tend to have very good stat scaling, so putting anything more than the required damage stats would be a bit of a waste. Unfortunately for me, I have to show off all of the weapons, and one of the halberds has some very high requirements. But a good chunk of the halberds only need 16 strength and 14 dexterity to use in one hand. Speaking of, let's talk about our next weapon, found right outside the Undead Parish, the titular halberd. Aside from a half-pound difference and one more point of strength required, it's literally the exact same as the Lucerne as far as stats go. Its moveset, however, is a bit different. Utilizing a series of pokes, this weapon takes full advantage of its reach. It still has the sweeping strong attacks you've grown used to, so no worries there, but its light attacks are all pokes with incredible reach. The rest of its attacks are all the same as the Lucerne's, so you won't need to do too much adjusting, especially since they seem to use the exact same animations. And while you'd think that changing the light attacks to pokes instead of slams wouldn't make that much of a difference, it really does. The hard part to pin down is, I'm not sure exactly why. The pokes do seem to come out a bit faster, and the range is deceptively large, with the hitbox seeming to reach a little bit beyond the weapon itself. All in all, a fantastic weapon, and one that can easily carry you throughout the entire game. But don't get too attached, because we've already come across the next halberd on our list, the Gargoyle Halberd. When fighting the gargoyles, there's a chance you can acquire it if you pry it out of their cold dead hands. But it's not a guaranteed drop. Thankfully, we can make it into one. Simply quit out of the game in the middle of the boss fight, reload your save, and voila, you're back outside the boss fog and can re-roll those dice again. Let me just reduce the prize pool a little bit by cutting off the tail, then we can make a mad dash at the second gargoyle, who has a bit less health than the first. And despite taking a halberd to the face, we've also taken a halberd to hand. And a helmet, I guess. But that's neither here nor there. Upsettingly easy boss with this weapon type. But I guess that's to be expected when you're doing big damage at a fast pace. So, the Gargoyle's Halberd. Not a whole lot to say about this one. It has slightly better damage than the other halberds, but otherwise, it's just a strange combo of the Lucerne and the halberd. The only different moveset it has is its light attacks, where it does a downward slam followed by a sweep. But outside of that, it's exactly the same as the other halberds we've collected so far. Except for one thing. It gives you extra resistance when you wield it. Not much, mind you, but it's something. As you can see from the bars, holding the Gargoyle's Halberd gives you a little extra poison, toxic, and bleed resistance, much like the other gargoyle equipment. So that's cool, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the classic. I just can't get away from that poke attack. Longer forward reach is just exactly what I want in a weapon. Kinda explains why I always go longsword over broadsword. Wait, wrong video. In any case, with both Havel and Lautrec rings acquired, finishing our build is just a matter of clearing some bosses and getting my stats higher. Remember how I said the scythe was overpowered? May the court please direct its attention to Exhibit A. I have minimal points in dexterity, the stat the weapon uses, and yet I'm still melting through the Stray Demon's health bar. If you want more footage of the scythe getting used to its maximum potential, I have a video for that already, but that's the last you'll see of it here. Ooh, hey, it's the Backlogs. Welcome to the lemon. Wait, that's a straight sword. Still the wrong video, my guy. Now, at this point, I have a sneaking suspicion that several of the less patient audience members have already written BKH! BKH! in the comments. And to those people, I give a failing grade. F-. Do not collect Go. Do not pass $200. For those not in the know, BKH is the acronym for Black Knight Halberd, the best halberd and, some would argue, the best weapon in the game. And for reasons that I can't begin to fathom, it's available from the very beginning of the game. If you took the Master Key, you can make your way to the Darkroot Garden via the Valley of Drake's Elevator or Havel's Tower, where a chance at the halberd is waiting for you. But that's all you get, a single chance. If the Black Knight that's wielding it decides you're unworthy, the weapon won't drop, and you'll have to run all the way to the Tomb of the Giants or the Kiln of the First Flame for another roll at the slot machine. And considering I only just got my stats to the point where I can one-hand the BKH if it does drop, there was no point in risking a failed drop up to this point anyway. So relax. No, seriously, your leg is literally vibrating the table. I said relax! But with every boss up to Quelaag defeated, I can finally stop putting points into strength and dexterity and start putting points into health. You fucking thought. Oh hey look, wearing the gargoyle gear actually works for crossing Blighttown. That's kinda neat, I guess. But before we go gamble for the best weapon in the game, there's one more thing I want to add to my build. And in order to reach it, we need to cut our way through all these sexy spider legs, ring that bell, no, not the YouTube one, that one doesn't work and we both know it, and make our way into Sen's Fortress, where, if we sit patiently at the bottom of this boulder trap, the trap backfires and breaks a wall, and we can collect the covetous gold serpent ring. Hey Sen, why is your fortress designed like this? Seems like a bit of an oversight to not have anywhere for the boulders to go. But with the gold serpent ring acquired and a minimum of 10 humanity stocked up, we can now go gambling. No, not at the Black Knight, at the Titanite Demon. Come on, baby, no whammies, no whammies, damn it. All right, no worries, that was a good thing. We got all of our bad luck out of the way, which means now is the perfect time to take out the Black Knight. Just gotta stab him in the crotch like so, say a quick prayer to RN Jesus, and oh, thank God. I mean, we technically had an 82% chance to get it, but I've played enough XCOM to know that means we had a less than 5% chance at success. There she is, the Black Knight Halberd in all of its glory. A whopping 245 base damage at +0, this beast has terrible scaling, requires 32 strength and 18 dexterity to wield properly, and weighs a whopping 14 pounds. As far as its moveset goes, it's a copy of the Gargoyle Halberds slam and slash combo, but its strong attacks are a bit different. The single-handed version is a spinning 2-hit diagonal combo, while its two-handed strong attack is a running jump slice. And yes, that is different than its jumping attack, which is essentially the same as the other halberds. So yeah, you've got two jumping moves. But regardless of what you decide to use, this thing is a powerhouse, carving through enemies like a hot knife through butter. And if that's not enough damage for you, it gets a hidden damage bonus against demon enemies. Because lore reasons, that's why. The only downside is that it takes Twinkling Titanite to upgrade. You'll need 10 total, which is doable at this point in the run if you've killed 3 crystal lizards and traded all 3 types of moss with Snuggly the Crow, but it's still a bit annoying to gather up. Well worth it for this particular weapon though. But don't go putting all your chips on the Black Knight Halberd just yet. We've got a few more weapons to find. Put it all on red. Dang it. Come on baby, Daddy needs a new weed whacker. Dang it. Daddy doesn't need a new weed whacker? Damn it, that usually works. Alright, last chance at Sen's Fortress. And it's rubbish. Guess we used up all of our luck on the Black Knight. I did find another halberd though, the Scythe, which is not a scythe. In fact, it's not even a halberd, it's a bardiche. Don't worry, I'm just as confused as you are. This thing is just a copy of the other halberds with slightly different stat requirements and scaling. It has no unique moves, nor any unique modifiers. And if you're using it, you're probably just using it because you like the idea of using a bardiche.
Mediocre.
I'll stick with my hot butter knife, thank you very much. Jesus wept, over 500 damage on a boss that has high physical defense. What am I, Iron Tarkus? But at this point in the run, we've only got 3 halberds left. Let's see if any of them can dethrone the class favorite. Come on, man, it's an 8.2% drop chance. One of you should have. Of the 3 halberds remaining, 2 of them can be bought from the Giant Blacksmith in Anne Orlando. The Giant's halberd costs 5,000 souls, and is the reason we had to get our strength to 36. It's also the heaviest halberd in the game. But it has the unique quality of doing lightning damage alongside its physical damage. Unfortunately, said lightning damage doesn't scale with any stats, and it has less physical damage than the BKH, which means unless your target is weak to lightning, you're probably not going to use this weapon. The moveset is unspectacular, though it does have a unique strong attack. The animation is a bit too long for my liking, but it does have a poke attack, which is pretty great. Shame that this weapon is just a consolation prize for anyone who didn't get the Black Knight halberd drop though. As for the other weapon the Giant can give us, we can convert one of our halberds into the Life Hunt Scythe. And all it costs you is 10,000 souls, a +10 halberd, and the life of your favorite waifu. Essentially just a better version of the Great Scythe, this thing has better bleed damage and equally fantastic dexterity scaling. The moveset is exactly the same, so it's more or less a direct upgrade. With one small catch. that extra bleed damage comes at a cost, because every time you hit an enemy, you deal bleed damage to yourself. This can be mitigated by wearing armor that has high bleed resistance, the bleed resist ring, or by choking down blood red moss, but yeah, keep an eye on that bleed bar if you decide to use it. But as I stated before, we're not going to be using scythes, because we've done that already. And as you can see from the footage, we don't really need any help. So yeah, Black Knight Halberd OP. If it wasn't obvious why speedrunners used this thing before, it should be by now. But with Ornstein and Smo destroyed with ease, there's only one last weapon left to find. And it's the one that's been eluding me for the last 6 or 7 Titanite demons. And I'll be honest with you, I really don't want to keep hunting Titanite demons. I think this is the last one before the respawning one down in Los Isleth, and that thing sucks to farm. Hey, first try, let's fucking go. So, the final weapon of the Halberd class, the Titanite Catchpole. Upgraded with Twinkling Titanite, this is the Magic Halberd. Not because it's super good or anything, I just mean that it does magic damage. The physical damage is fine, and the magic damage is decent, but like all the other halberds, the scaling is absolute garbage. And because it's a Twinkling Titanite weapon, there's no way to improve it further with weapon buffs or alternate upgrade paths. As per usual, it has the same moveset as the rest of them, but its strong attacks are a bit different. Because by pressing the strong attack button, you suddenly put on Air Jordans and do a leap attack. Now even the most humble undead can be like Mike with the press of a button. It's a strong attack too. Not Black Knight Halberd strong, but still a force to be reckoned with. And with the Titanite Catchpole finally in our grasp, that's it. That's every single halberd collected, and we haven't even started the second half of the game yet. I guess it's a little disappointing that there isn't another halberd waiting for us somewhere in the latter portions of the game, but with as strong of a weapon as we've got with the BKH, it would just end up being a disappointment anyway. You know, the more I think about it, the stranger this weapon class feels to me. Depending on your luck, this run can be the easiest run in the game, or a hard one. Well, okay, not hard, that's just me exaggerating a bit for effect, but the difficulty does swing wildly depending entirely on your luck. For example, let's say you make a mad dash for the Black Knight Halberd like speedrunners do. Even if you have no humanity and no golden serpent ring, you still have a 20% chance of getting the drop. That's a 1 in 5 chance that you start your run with the most overpowered weapon in the game, and you don't even need crazy high stats to make it work. 18 dexterity and 22 strength is all you need to two-hand it. That's, what, 2 bosses? 3 at most? And once you get that weapon off the ground, the game is your oyster. But on the other side of the coin, 4 of your 5 runs don't get the BKH. But you could, at even lower odds, get the Titanite Catchpole, a weapon that dominates the early game just as hard, due to enemies having such low magic defense. Again, the odds are very low. We're talking single-digit percentages, even with maxed out item find. But should you get lucky, your run once again finds itself on Easy Street, with bosses and enemies alike melting in front of your very catching pole. But if you forgot to make your weekly tithe to RNGesus, and the odds are not in your favor, you've still got a pretty easy run ahead of you. As I probably made clear with the early game portion of this run, the Halberd class has some very strong weapons, and even the basic weapons are strong contenders if you can master its moveset. Just overall a great weapon class to work with. Between the heavy damage, the decent attack speed, and its long reach, you'll be hard-pressed to find an easier weapon to tackle Dark Souls with. I mean, I haven't played around with great swords or ultra great swords yet, so maybe there is an easier weapon type for beginners, but halberds are definitely a great choice. So yeah, whether you're struggling with your first run of Dark Souls, or you're a veteran who's just looking for a nice easy run, halberds are a great fit. Give them a try. You might find your new favorite weapon type. I see why so many people like to use this weapon type in Dark Souls 1. It's hard to break free of its gravitational pull once you start using it. Personally, it's not quite the weapon type for me though. I prefer my weapons to be faster and a bit more wieldy, but if you gave me the classic halberd and told me to go to town, I'd still have a pretty good time. And there you go. That's the halberd only run complete. And to think, this Black Knight Halberd technically isn't even the strongest halberd. Had we remembered to pick up the Crystal Halberd from the very beginning of Anor Londo, we'd have outperformed it by another 60 damage or so. But that's alright. I'll leave giving that beast a try to one of you brave souls in the audience. Don't worry, I'm sure you'll do great. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something new today, or at the very least had a good time watching me casually stroll through the game. If you've got any good halberd stories you want to tell, or have any strong feelings about which weapon type we should cover next, let me know down in the comments. I'm kinda leaning towards ultra great swords myself, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. And until next time, take care of yourselves, be good to one another, and I'll see you all again soon.